Hello and welcome back to my video blog. This is Marc Cormier, and today I have a guest for the first time, Michelle Adams, attorney at law. And today we're going to talk about how the housing crisis has affected the demographic, the 55 and older demographic. So, Michelle.
Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me. This is a demographic that is really getting hit hard right now by the housing crisis. Often, people are stuck in a situation where they took money out of their homes or they refinanced in the last few years, and they're now putting off retirement to stay in that home and continue paying on their mortgage.
I've seen them ask, they say, should we take out of our retirement to pay down our mortgage?
Exactly. And that's the worst thing that someone could do. And, it bothers me when someone comes to see me and unfortunately they got advice from someone else before coming to see me and they've already gone through their entire 401k, and they still have the same mortgage payment. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, the key is they have to get competent, answers to their questions. A lot of times they don't even know what questions to ask. So give me a little idea of when a person comes to you, what's the first thing you ask them to try to identify the best solution for them?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of clients actually in this demographic of 55 and up, and I think it's growing. And some of the options we go over with them is, do they want to stay in their house? Can they afford to stay in their house? Maybe a modification is the right way to go if they really do want to stay in the home, or if they're done, they want to retire, and they're stuck with this mortgage payment, they know they can't afford it, then we start talking about whether it's the right time to sell their property. And to be honest, if they're underwater, meaning that they owe more than the house is worth, they don't really think about selling. A lot of these people are very resistant to the idea of becoming part of the problem, being part of the crisis.
Again, there's a certain responsibility that they feel. That demographic has a certain understanding. They have a certain feeling about a certain pride, versus, and I don't want to say it in the wrong way, but versus today's younger person that just looks at the facts and says, okay, this is the facts. This is how I'm going to handle it. Person in the older demographics, they feel a sense of hey, this is my mortgage. I signed up for it. I might have gotten swindled on it, but I have an obligation to pay it.
No, that's right, and they're ready to go down with the ship, and that's why statistically the amount of people going to foreclosure right now in that age bracket of 55 and up has been growing. I believe the statistic was over 900% that since 2007 for people that are 55 and up. And I think it's because people are afraid to ask for help. They don't realize that there are options. And like you said, they feel once they've signed that mortgage note, then that's it. They don't have a choice.
Wow, and that's a time in their lives where they definitely don't want to be going down with the ship because there is no time to make up the difference.
Well, that's right, and they're also really not thinking about the effects on their family. Right now they can do something about it, and still have some time to move on. Health hasn't become a huge concern yet, but if you wait too long, it becomes a burden for your family. At that point, there aren't as many options. The family has to deal with it. If a property was to go to foreclosure, sometimes people think, well, that's it. That's the end of it, but it's not, because the debt still remains and they can come after an estate. So if someone had intended to leave money to their family and they planned accordingly and then they didn't take care of their home, it's going to come back and bite them.
Yeah, definitely. If you were to advise a person, give them the 2 or 3 things that they should look at or consider to say, hey, maybe I do fit into that. I need to really look at this differently, or I'm just going down.
Well, step 1 is take a big picture approach, right? So you want to take a look at all of your finances. What do you have for retirement? What are your plans? What did you want to do when you retire? Do you want to travel a little bit? Do you want to move into a smaller space? Do you want to be closer to family? So you have to figure out what it is that you want. Step 2 is, see where you are right now. How much money are you earning monthly? How much is that mortgage payment? And how much if you were to retire? Now, if your income is only going to be Social Security or retirement income, it's not going to be enough to keep up with the current mortgage. And I just can't stress it enough. Do not go to your 401k. Do not go to your retirement money to keep the home. You have to realize it's a thing. It's not a person. It's just an asset. And I think people get very personally involved with their homes, and they're very afraid to lose them.
Yeah, definitely. People feel like they don't realize it's just a commodity.
Yes.
That's all it is a commodity. It's bought and sold. You know, to them, it's their house, and I definitely understand it because I mean, my house is my house.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's not. You know, house catches on fire. As long as the family, as long as everybody gets out safe, that's all that counts.
Yes.
And this is the same situation. It's not a fire, but it has the same effect as a fire. Go ahead.
Oh, so I was saying, you know, my firm has been working with a couple of homeowners more recently who kind of came in advance. You know, they're not behind on their mortgage, and I think a lot of people think, well, I have to already be a struggling homeowner in order to get help, and you know, that's not always the case. That's why it's really important to come in and get advice, get options. My firm, when we meet with people, we go over, you know, every option, and if it's short sale, if it's loan mod, if it's bankruptcy, deed in lieu, you know, sometimes it's just debt settlement. Sometimes these people just have a lot of credit card debt, or they have a second on their home. The second is completely underwater, and sometimes we can settle the second and they can still stay in their house. So, you know, there are other options out there, but I don't think that there's enough information getting to people.
Yeah, I definitely know. I see people all the time, they come to me as a realtor, and the only thing that everybody has told them is they have to sell, they have to sell. I mean, obviously, I want to sell, but you know, I'm sending them to an attorney because that might not be their best option at that time.
Right.
And you know, at the end of the day, you gotta live with yourself.
Yes.
And you know, I like the fact that you sit and talk to the client and you get to understand it's not a cookie cutter situation. Everybody has their own, you know, if they have if one spouse has health issues, I mean, that has a big impact on what do they call it, now I'm lost for words, the hardship.
Yes, yes, and you know, hardship is, we say at my firm that hardship is relative, and what we mean by that is, you know, there's hardship at every scale. There's hardship for someone who lives in $1 million home who's lost their job, just as much as there's hardship for someone who's in a $100,000 home that's lost their job, you know, and it bothers me so much when people do not realize that they have alternatives. And I see, you know, I go to the courthouse, I see the auctions, you know, I see the foreclosure notices. I have people coming to me 2 days before sale date, and I just always wish if only they'd come to me a few months sooner. In fact, I met with a couple who had just refinanced 5 days before they came in to see me, and I just shook my head because now, you know, they can't even take advantage of any of the programs that are available, because the programs are only available if your loan originated before January of 2009. So now, you know, they blew their options. So, you know, it is really important.
Let's talk
Yep.
about it. Because they refinanced, and before they came to see you, everything, the new clock set on the new financing day.
Right.
On the date, so then they lost, what was the date again?
January 1st, 2009. And with that, you know, we're talking specifically about the HAFA, Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternatives. And it was just revamped for July and applies to homeowners and non-occupant homeowners, investment properties. But the loan still has to have originated January 1st, 2009.
So if it's an investment property, there's an opportunity. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but it does fall, it's not a disqualified category.
Not anymore.
You gotta move over a little bit because you're missing, there you
Okay.
go. They wanna see you.
Yeah, not anymore, actually. Investment properties now are fully covered under HAFA, and I'm finding that the banks are very, very willing to work with investment properties now. The moment I, you know, put into any of my packages that it's not owner occupied and that there's a tenant in there, they call me and ask me would I like HAFA, and that's unusual. They're really chomping at the bit to use this program now.
Okay, and now your firm operates in just Maryland, or?
We are in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. We have attorneys that are licensed in all 3 states, and we will often travel for our meetings if it's inconvenient for someone to get to us, but we are available on the Metro. We're right at Rockville Metro Station. I have clients all over the world. I have clients in Afghanistan right now, and you know, we work by Skype and over the phone. We've been there for 5 years, and basically been working short sales for about almost 5 years now. Back when, you know, we had 3 or 4 trickling in, up to now when our firm is handling a little over 500 or so a year.
Now, And how, now, so you have short sales, how many loan mods? Give me an idea of loan mods.
I mean, we get a lot more coming in than we take. We are very particular in our loan mods, as we want to have successful rate of turning those into actual final loan modifications. And we are not a firm that's going to sit down with someone and tell every single person, yes, we think we can get you loan mod. If we see something in the financials that looks promising, then we will do it. We are, we are a law firm. We do charge a fee for our services, and we want to make sure that people are getting good quality service for that.
And if a person's getting ready to go to foreclosure, you'll go in, you won't just file bankruptcy like a lot of attorneys do, because that's the most common. Foreclosure date is there, has been posted, a firm will go out and they'll file bankruptcy in order to stop the foreclosure to start. Tell me, what do you do differently?
We do foreclosure defense work, which means that if someone comes in and they have a sale date, we immediately get on the phone, see what we can do first to postpone it through the phone, through the bank. Second is trying to postpone it through the law firm that's representing the bank. And third is actually going to court. In Maryland, there's a motion to stay that can be filed up until really an hour before the sale. And I have been there in an ex parte motion to stop a foreclosure and been successful at it. In DC, you have injunctive relief. You can go there the day of and stop a foreclosure. Virginia has nothing.
Okay.
They just go to foreclosure. But, we are still on the phone up until, the moments before the sale trying to stop it if we can.
Now, does a person have a right to, when a foreclosure is filed, do they have the right to some kind of arbitration or?
Well, DC has a mediation requirement. Maryland gives you the right to request mediation, but it's not a requirement. You, the homeowner, will get a packet. Maryland is a judicial state, so they will send you what is called an order to docket, and you'll get either a final loss mitigation affidavit or preliminary. With the final loss mitigation comes a request to mediate. You have to actually send that in with a $50 check and request mediation. Otherwise, you waive your rights.
Okay.
DC, it's automatic. They set a date,
And
you come in.
Virginia?
Virginia's nothing.
Okay, so.
There's a trend here.
Yeah, I got you. That's why we see a lot more right now. We saw a lot of foreclosures in Virginia early on, and now we're starting to see more coming into Maryland because it's gone through the system.
Yeah, and because Virginia's not judicial, a few months into missing your mortgage payments, you get a notice that tells you that you're with, it's a company, it's not usually a law firm, that just says, we're going to sell your house in 30 days.
Why don't you take a second and explain judicial versus non-judicial?
Sure. When you get your mortgage, it's actually within the clauses whether your state allows for the bank to go to court to get back your house, or if it's by action underneath the mortgage. If it's by action under the mortgage, they don't have to go to court. They can send you a letter that says you've missed your payments. Now we're going to take back the asset which you used to get the money. They give you a set number of months. Sometimes it's only 4 months, and then they can send you your notice and say, we have the right under the note, we're taking back your home. If it's a judicial state, they have to actually go to court, file a complaint for foreclosure, and have a judge agree and grant that right to foreclose. And then that's ratification of sale and things like that before that can happen. Maryland's got a long process even after the sale date. And people call me sometimes and their home has already gone to foreclosure and they want to know how long can they stay in the house or what happens next. And I will walk them through the steps of how long they have. And sometimes it's 4 to 6 months before the bank is going to have the right to possess the property.
At any point, can they go, at that point, once the gavel strikes, do they have the ability to, in Maryland, because we know Virginia they don't, in Maryland, do they have the right, do they have the ability, is there a glimmer of hope that they can undo?
Well, Maryland is not a redemption state. So that means once the gavel goes down and they agree to the foreclosure, you can't undo it. You can't go to the courthouse the next day and pay the money that's due. Some states allow that. DC and Maryland both are not redemption states. So once the gavel's down, your only choice in Maryland is to file for exceptions. Now, this is a motion that can be filed, but it is very limited in scope. It only applies if there was something procedurally wrong with the foreclosure. So that means that they had to have missed a deadline. It's not for fraud, and I've had fraud, and I have filed for fraud and failed. It is not for what they call unclean hands, where the bank did both at one time. They tried to work on a loan mod, they also tried to work on foreclosure, and they really are not supposed to be dual tracking, but they are. You can't argue any of those motions after.
Is it, what about if it was, service wasn't correct?
If service, that would fall under procedural, yes.
Okay.
Or, you know, they're supposed to serve you with 2 copies and they sent you 1, or you never got your mediation packet, or these are the type of things that can undo a foreclosure. Or sometimes we can get the bank to undo it. You know, if it went to foreclosure and the bank bought it back, if the bank...
Hold on. That was her cell phone, by the way. Okay. Go ahead.
If the bank buys it back, there is a chance to go back to that investor and say, look, no one wanted it, I have a buyer, let's do the short sale.
Okay. But now we're going to wind this down by going back to, again, we talked in general. This information we just gave was to anybody, but I want to go back and talk specifically to the 55 and over community. Because that community, again, has the least amount of time to recover and has the expectation and the right to expect that they should be able to live out their life as they plan. So if a person, if they're upside down and they feel like the house is strangling them, even if they're current, there are options for them.
And that's really the message to leave everyone with, is that even if you are not yet behind on your mortgage, you need to figure out what you want to do. Because there are other alternatives to just staying in the house. And I have met with a number of people now who are at that verge of retirement, and they've delayed, you know, a few months or so to continue working as they decide what they're going to do with their home. And that doesn't have to be the case. You know, if you've decided this is the time to retire, retiring now and actually having your income decrease is actually going to help in making you look a little better to the bank. Because, you know, obviously if you're making $2,000 and your mortgage payment is $2,000, you can't afford your home.
Okay. So I just want to leave folks with that understanding. It's not, we're not playing, there's no tricks, it's not dirty pool. It's just what's best for you. And these are all, the things that you do are all above board. There's no, you don't have a situation where you have to come in with a certain amount of money, and if you don't, oh, here comes the phone again. You know, next time you should turn it off. But, you know, it's not a situation where they have to come in. You'll sit and talk to them first up front and explain it, and then they can come back if they want to.
That's right. It's a free consultation. We like people to come in, bring some of their financials with them so we can look through it and, again, give them what their options are moving forward. You know, I find that one of the biggest challenges is getting over this fear that people have. The fear of what happens if I do this, what happens to the balance, what may happen to my credit, things like this. And, you know, these are all things that we can go over. You know, I say that each one is like a fingerprint, every person I meet with, because none of them are the same.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you got a lot out of it. Jill's information, not Jill, Michelle's information, because she's with the Jill.
Law offices of Jill Michaels.
There you go.
In Rockville, Maryland.
But their information will be down below. And I hope you enjoy this. And if you have any ideas of any other topics you want to see us cover, just shoot me an email. Take care. Hope all's well.
Bye.